Hey guys, welcome back to Ed's Garage. I'm here in my tool room and my little mini workshop here. It's a bit of a mess because I decided to go ahead and repurpose one of the Chevy Spark EV modules that I pulled out of the EV battery pack. And we're going to be using it in my wife's little scooter. So I'm currently just putting together a single 16S battery. Wow. So it's going to be 16 cells in series. I'm not doing it the proper way. I'm doing it the way that I found was easiest and cheapest and should still function. So what I've got, let me show you what I got here. So each one of these tabs, as you can see, is pretty wrecked from when I disassembled the module. But what I'm basically doing is I've taken out all of the coolant channels and all of these little pads that were kind of stuck in between. And I'm just putting the batteries kind of up against each other here. And we'll squish this all together once it's done. Once I kind of bolt it all together, it should kind of stay pretty well stuck together. I think, when they had it together in the vehicle, it was really, really compressed. There was, these pads were kind of in here. And, yeah, while that probably would help quite a bit, I don't think it's necessary for this application. And quite frankly, we'll just keep an eye on the battery temperature. There's going to be a BMS monitoring this. So you can see I've got all the BMS wiring here ready to go. And these little clips that I'm using to kind of squish the tabs together, they can take solder. So I'm going to put the wire through that little loop there and then solder it. And that's for the BMS. By the way, guys, these are just, they're like fabric tassel clip thingies. And what I'm doing is I'm crimping them onto each one of the sets of tabs here. So that's my solution, and hopefully it works. It may not last. This might be temporary, but that's okay. This battery pack, this module is the worst one out of the 6 that I got. So I'm not too concerned about the longevity on this. This is more of a proof of concept. So the scooter that I'm putting it into is actually a 48 volt scooter. I can quickly show you what it looks like here. So this is the scooter in question. And you can see there's lots of room right here for a battery pack. So I could put, I could almost fit an entire module in there. Not quite though, because it sticks up too high. And I can't really put it on an angle or anything just because this bar is in the way. So there's not quite enough room. We've tried it in multiple different ways. It just didn't quite fit. So rather than using, an entire module for now, I'm just going to do half a module. So these modules here are 16S, so they're 2P16S, so the two of these cells in parallel, and then 16 sets of 2 parallel cells. Making about 67 volts when fully charged. So I can't even go to 67 volts when fully charged. I can only go to 63. That's the maximum number that scooter will take before blowing. The capacitor inside the controller is 63 volts. So this should work as long as I don't charge it to 100%, which is fine because that's the safest way of keeping these batteries anyway. And there will never be too much load on it. We don't have any hills around here. It's just a quick jaunt to and from her work, which is about a 15-minute walk away. So at least this will give her some extra speed. The scooter before could only reach about 30 kilometers an hour, 20 miles an hour, which wasn't really fast. So this will hopefully give her a little bit of a boost in that as well. In any event, I'm just going to keep going ahead and hooking these up in series. So far, I've got 10 connected together. Just got 6 more to go, and then we'll see how it goes together. All right, that's what we're doing. Now, if you're wondering why I didn't solder these tabs together, well, that's because the tabs themselves simply will not take solder. I have tried everything, and solder does not stick to these tabs. It does, however, stick to these little clips, which is handy for the BMS. I also tried spot welding them together with this little spot welder here, and that didn't work either. It's like the metals in these tabs, the anode and cathode, don't like to mix very well as far as soldering them together. So I'm not going to worry about it. I'm just going to go ahead and keep crimping them together. So I've got all of these batteries marked off the positive side, so I'm obviously making sure to put the positive side on the opposite side of the negative side every single time, because we're doing a series configuration here. So what I'm doing is I'm using these nice little flat pliers to first flatten out these tabs really well, and then I'm rolling the tabs over together. So I'm taking the two tabs, pinching them together, and then I'm basically just going to roll them up tight, which is a little tricky because the pliers aren't quite long enough to go all the way across the tab, so I'm going to have to do the first part of it and then roll the last bit. And then roll it one more time. As you can see, I've got the tab rolled over twice, and the reason I'm rolling it over is basically to, aid in the connection, but also with these little clips. You notice the little teeth on the end there. If I go right over top of that fold, as it crimps, those teeth should hold on to the back side of this sort of lip on both sides because it's thicker there. So hopefully the idea is that the teeth will kind of go around the fattened section of that rolled up foil there. Now in practice, don't know if that's actually doing what I'm hoping it's doing, but I don't know, it seems to be pretty good. Once I put it on, I can't move it at all anymore. It's quite stuck. There we go. We have 64 volts right now because it's charged to 90%, I think it is, roughly. Yeah, now it's time to clamp this together. So I should be able to put this on here now. Somehow. So I still have the bolts that I can run through here. So I'm going to do that, but then the top part needs to be strapped somehow as well. So what I'll probably end up doing is bolting these sections here, and then I'll use some Gorilla Tape to just wrap the hell around this thing. As a matter of fact, I'll probably just go around everything with Gorilla Tape just so that it is completely sealed up to the weather. Obviously, we don't want to be driving this thing through puddles. Well, through big, huge puddles anyway. But puddles are okay. I want to make sure that it's at least sealed up for that. And honestly, if a little bit of water gets in there, it's actually no big deal because the battery packs themselves are completely sealed anyway. So, all right. But that is the size of the battery pack. Now, I wonder how much this weighs, because this is going to be about 1,200 watt hours of electricity. This battery pack was the worst one. It was the most degraded, this module, and it still pulled, it pulled 2,200 watt hours. So this would be 1,100 watt hours of energy, which is plenty. That's actually significantly more than the old batteries that were in the scooter. They totaled up to, well, what was left of them anyway, totaled up to only about 400 or 500 watt hours of energy. There was very little left. This weighs 25 pounds dead on, and those 4 lead acid batteries that I pulled out of the scooter total weight about 54 pounds or 52 pounds, somewhere around there. So this weighs less than half as much and has more than twice as much energy. So yay. The old batteries that I pulled out were 274 watt hours each. So if they were brand new, they'd have more energy than this, but because they're not, obviously they've lost a lot. So this is going to be a huge improvement to not just power, but also range. All right, let's get some bolts and bolt this thing up. All right, there we go. I've got my little mini battery pack. So, yeah, it's funny. If I squeeze these tabs hard enough, I can actually get a little tiny bit of a tingle. But yeah, looking good. The only thing I'm not sure of at this point is what I'm going to do for the end tabs. Now, this is the old part that went onto the top. And as you can see, it lines up great with one side, but then not the other side. Now, the reason that is because remember, there was 2 batteries in series, in parallel for every series set. So where these kind of flip-flop between this position and this position, those didn't do that. So they were more kind of side by side because it was 2 in parallel. So yeah, there wouldn't be, for instance, at the old battery pack, there wouldn't be 2 batteries straddling this line right here. So now I got to figure this out. So I think what I might do is just run the saw right through the center of this, cut this in half, and then put basically 2 halves side by side. But the other problem is that the posts are only on the one side here. So if I slice down here, I'm still going to need this bit. So the plan was to actually cut this in half, you know, take out the center section here and then just put the 2 halves together. But even that's not going to work. So got to figure something out for these end terminals. Yeah, once I get that sorted, I will be back. All right, so I've got the battery sort of temporarily mounted in here. It's just connected up, that's all. It's just kind of floating in there right now. But I just wanted to see what sort of speed increase we got. So we went from a 48 volt lead acid battery system, and on the speedometer here, when the wheel was just freewheeling like it is right now, we were getting up to about 44 kilometers an hour on the speedometer. So let's go ahead and spin it up and see how fast it goes. "54 kilometers an hour. Sweet. So an extra 10 kilometers an hour. So yeah, I just wanted to test to see how fast it would go freewheeling. So before, when we were at full bore, full throttle, we were only able to go about 34 kilometers an hour, 34, 35. So considering this now just bumped 10 kilometers an hour, I'll be happy with 44 kilometers an hour on the road. So take it for a quick run, see what it does. All right, and I'm back. So it did pretty much exactly 50 kilometers an hour. That's where it topped out at. So that is a huge improvement over the 35-ish that we were getting before, 34, 35. The fastest we had ever seen this thing on relatively flat ground was 41, but that was still going downhill a tiny bit. So getting all the way up to 50 kilometers an hour is pretty awesome. So very happy with that result. So I'm gonna install the BMS on this just so you can see how that works, and then I'll finish the video after that. Okay, just a quick progress update. I've got the BMS all wired up. So the way to do this, the black wire here from this little bus bar goes to the negative terminal of the battery, as does this blue battery cable. I'm going to be mounting this right here. Seems to be the best way to do it. There's a couple of temperature sensors, so I'm going to try to separate those, put one on either side. Probably, I don't know, tuck them in somehow, maybe just down into one of these packs here. I might be able to jam it in there. We'll see. If not, I might just put them on the sides, but I gotta figure out a place to put those. But yeah, as you can see, basically every wire, starting from wire 1 all the way to wire 16, is connected to all subsequent cells. So it's crisscrossing, obviously, because they're in series. And what this does is it measures the voltage of the first pack, so between the negative side here, which is right here, to the positive side, that equals 4 volts, of course. And then it measures between this one and this one. Between this two. So between these two, it's going to read 8, and then of course 12, 16, 20, 24, etc., 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 throughout the range. So I've kind of tucked all the wires in the middle there. I need to clean them up down here somehow. I've got this pad. I'm reusing this from when I pulled the battery packs apart. That will sit there on top just to kind of protect all the tabs. I'll just tape that up. And then this terminal is no longer going to be accessed at all, so I got to just tighten that up nicely. So the new ground terminal will be right here, and then the positive terminal will remain the one on the battery. So I'm going to clean that all up and come back in a bit. All right, quick update. So I cut away a bunch of the stuff in here that isn't really necessary. Added this plank, a couple of brackets there. So this now is on a perfect 90-degree angle because the battery is going to kind of sit on a bit of an angle here, and it's going to protrude a little bit through the storage bin, which is fine because that storage bin used to just be full of batteries. I'm going to go ahead and put the battery into this sort of water bag thing. This bag is fairly rugged, and of course it's waterproof. Obviously the top's not going to be waterproof, but I'll cinch that up a little bit. That's all going to be underneath the seat and everything, so it's not going to get rained on or anything like that. But this will keep any water splashing up from getting anywhere near the electronics for the BMS and whatnot. Okay, so I'm going to put that in there. I'm going to then strap it down with my strap here, use that, and I'll just go around this thing and around the battery. And then I got to figure out how to put the support bracket back in, because I had to cut this out of the way in order to make room for the battery. So my plan is I want this to be removable after the fact. I'm just going to do something really simple. It's going to have a couple of bars going like this on an angle. This just supports the weight of somebody sitting on the front, but it only helps because this is actually quite strong anyway, and nobody's going to be sitting on the front that weighs that much, so it won't be an issue. Okay, so let me get the battery in and I'll show you what it looks like. All right, we are done. So above the battery pack, I just put some high density foam here. It was my wife's idea, great idea. Doesn't look spectacular, but it doesn't matter because this is just storage. I did manage to figure out a way to secure this side of it. I just ran a plank down to another bar underneath, so now this can actually support a lot of weight, so no problems there anymore. So now we have additional storage, more battery capacity, and a faster scooter, and I'm just going to quickly take it out for a spin, see what we can get to. Well, I'm going to end the video there. I think that was a success. A good repurposing of a Chevy Spark EV battery, at least a very small part of that Chevy Spark EV battery. I've got lots more of those to go. So still 5 more full modules, and of course 16 cells here that I can use for smaller packs. I'm thinking maybe putting a couple in series, 3 in series or 4 in series to kind of get around 12 volts. See what we're going to do there. Need to buy some different BMSs and whatnot. So anyway, thanks so much for watching. Take care. Have a great day.